Hello, everyone. This is David with New Worship coming to you. I haven't forgot about New Worship. I try to post something each and every week, one way or the other. On TikTok, I'm the old man. I make funny, silly little jokes. I have to do that. You see, at the end of the times, which is either close to my end of days or end of days period for everybody, but it's getting closer. I can feel it happening. Deep in my body, I feel everything happening. So I used my little thing about the old man and the farmer and the son and all like that as a way to relieve tension. That's all it is. My whole desire is to come to you and talk to you about things, the way things are. I've been doing lots of deep research. And the COVID 19 has lots of validity to it. There is a COVID virus out there. My chances of getting it is just as good without the shot as it is with the shot. With the shot, I have a higher chance of severity, but getting over it. Without the shot, I have a small chance of severity and not getting over it. So you kind of weigh everything out personally for yourself. I'm not saying take the shot, and I'm not saying not to take it. But sometimes doing deep research and not jumping to the conclusion just because one person's saying something and another person's saying something else. You need to come up with your own conclusions, your own mind. Weigh the evidence the way that it should be. Because without the evidence of seeing what this COVID thing is really doing, then you can't make good judgment calls. I know there's a lots of nations around the world that's mandating that everybody has it. And it's almost turning into a communistic party. I call even America a socialist party because here we may elect the people into the office, but we can't control what happens once they get there. And each person going into the offices here in America, they think they have an agenda lined up about what they want to get done, but they got so much opposition to every side of them till they can't get it done. Then once they do it, they realize it was a mistake. Now, I'm not going to support one side or the other for president, even though Joe Biden, I think, has bitten off more than he can chew. And that's not just a little term, but it's like the person that just took a too big a bite of a apple or lemon or a little steak or whatever. They're going to be a while chewing on that before they can swallow it. And once they do swallow it, they don't want to go back there again. But Biden has bitten off more than what he can chew. And is showing the stress that he's going through. You might not think he's showing much, but it is there. In all of his actions and all of his talks and all of his media appearances show that Biden is in turmoil about everything. He likes to control some things, but he can't. And he's being guided by so many people out there pulling him every which way. And then he has another way in which he wants to go, but he can't do that because of national security, the Constitution, and everything else. He'd like to tell everybody, well, you're required to have a shot for the COVID 19, but he can't do that constitutionally because if he did that, it would create a civil war. And unlike the Civil War in the 1800s, this one could lead into a takeover of the whole United States because there's so many different factions here living till you start a civil war here till they're all going to be at their own throats. I mean, by the time it's all said and done, there won't be no functional government left. There won't be no uh, domestic food or transportation as we see it, know it today. Everything that we know will change. But more and more, the people are pushing the president to go one way or the other. If he doesn't mandate it, then he's going to a side that the Democrats can't support, more the Republicans can. And if he does mandate it, many of the Democrats not going to support him on that, and every one of the Republicans not going to support him on that, and that's going to create a civil war. No matter which way he goes, he's sort of like a catch 22, you know? There is no real good outcome to any of this. There's so many different factions, and some of these are not just right wing terrorist groups and stuff. Lots of these that are out there are religious groups, all the way from the different type of Baptists, different type of Catholic, to the different type of Islam, to the different type of Jewish people, to the different type of Buddhist monks. There's so many different factions out there till they will all fight. This is their cause. This is what they're wanting to go and be in. It's like they are. And they're all different. Different enough to they will be fighting even amongst themselves. And I hate to say it, the first one's going to really feel the push to this. It's going to be the African Americans here. And not all of the blacks are African Americans. Some of the blacks here came from Haiti, not all African. Some of them come from South America, and not all from Africa. Some come from Australia. Some come from Japan and different places. China. You might think that they're all white, but they're not. There are darker colored ones, almost black there too. And they're here. They're going to be fighting between themselves first or foremost. Then you're going to have fighting between the states. One state's going to try to declare independence from the rest of the United States, and that's going to create a war. You're going to have clashes in between the borders of each state, and that's going to be another battle. So, what is the outcome? The outcome, people, is what's going to be happening that's already happening around the world. There is a ban on religion in many nations trying to stop the infighting. There is a ban or different nationalities in each and every country from rising up. There is a ban on people uh, marching and getting together to strike or to form a group of any kind of people, even from the social classes of the very, very poor to the very, very rich. Even they are trying to rally together and create their own little groups. This is the outcome. And now you could take and you can see all this happening throughout the world. So what are you going to do? What is going to happen? Well, first of all, let's talk about religion. Religion is just different aspects of how to worship and believe in God. As there is many different aspects to each and every deity that they have in the skies and all above, all the written words soon will be banned. You will see things like that being burned, torn, thrown away. That's all part of the war. People fighting with inside themselves over it. So that's going to wind up happening. For all those that study and worship the Quran, what are you going to do when you cannot have a Quran? And all those that take and worship the Bible and believe there, what are you going to do when there is no more Bible? You going to rely on word of mouth from one man to another? There is diversity because each man interpretation of what God is, what God's word is, it's just man's word. And that's the problem. I call this new worship, but it's not an old way. It's not you listening to the word of God or whoever you call him, the higher deity that it is above you, listening and obeying and trusting in that is above you. The great deceiver has been working his magic all around the world, and there's deceptions all the way around. Deceptions about what COVID is, deceptions about what religions are, deceptions about what is nationality, deceptions about the different races. All these deceptions is being caused by the great deceiver. You listen to them and you hear things. In both the Quran and the Bible, it talks about the last day. Taking that of the mark of the beast. Or in Islam, not to take that of an infidel, not to suffer a witch to live, not to suffer the idiots, the non believers to worship and believe. Suffer them not, destroy them. This is part of it. This is also part of Israel teaching. We're all building up. You don't need a big bomb. You don't need nuclear weapons going off. I don't think that's going to happen. You don't need a big gamma burst to take out everybody's power system. You don't need all that. It's going to happen anyway. And it's going to happen real fast. And Biden sees this. all the world leaders see this happening. And it's like a snowball rolling downhill. There is no way to stop it, people. It's going to happen. You can't take a free nation and impose government will and demands on the free will of the people. You can't do that. But all nations have practiced a little bit form of this freedom, except for North Korea. They've taken freedom totally away from their people. But their people are getting ready to rebel against North Korea. Because when China can't help North Korea out no more, and South Korea isn't going to help North Korea, they're going to be by themselves. And that's the way it's going to be around the world. Total isolation. The people coming to America will only be able to come and buy the land because the sea's not going to be acceptable anymore. I was reading an article the other day. It was made a statement that 75% of all fish species that are edible by humans are gone. That's a lot of fish gone, and I've been checking it out. There's certain breed species of fish that still left, and they're in abundance, but not enough to feed the world. There isn't enough. But rest of the oceans are just dead. To see a whale passing from South America to from the Arctic to the Antarctic, back and forth like that, is a rarity. They're not like it used to be. There was the whales coming back, but not anymore. There's a lot of things that's happening in the Indian Ocean and deep in the waters where there should be abundance of life and stuff going on. They're finding by LIDAR that most plant, animal life, and all in these oceans are dead. LIDAR is laser detecting uh, something other like that. A LIDAR is something that's fixed in the satellites above us. And those satellites, they kind of keep map of everything happening. It's like the Mariana Trenches that are happening in, I think that's what they call them, in the Atlantic Ocean. They're in turmoil. The depths of them has gotten deeper, and the water that was flowing in them don't flow no more. You used to see a cascade of water flowing into the sides of them all the time. It don't anymore. It just passes over. The North Atlantic Current that goes up into the Arctic Ocean, the Arctic up there around Greenland, and all these other real cold places has shifted. It changed. Everybody says climate change, but through the ice cores that I've been reading, which is archaeologists as a climatologist reading the ice cores. This ain't the first time the Earth has done this. It's done this many a times, change. So that's happening. And we got all this COVID stuff going on. You can read about it yourself. I encourage you to look at these things and find out. Find out what happened to the Earth 4 billion years ago. Find out what happened to the Earth just a little bit over 100 million years ago. Then look at the Earth just 1 million years ago. And you see, within the last 500,000 years is when we came to be and all this started happening. We were around before that, but all this started happening. It just only happened in the last 500,000 years. So when they're saying 5,000 years BC, that's only a drop in the bucket compared to 500,000 years ago. Lots of people say that the creation of man only happened in a certain place, and that was in Africa. And that was during the Pangea time. That during the Pangean time, continents being together, they may say that that's where man started. But Pangea happened hundreds of millions of years ago. Man did not start by the Pangean times. There was lots of other creatures, but not men. Because the shifting and everything that happened there then would have killed every man and person on Earth. And it did lots of times kill off a lot of animal lives. And climate change has always been part of a key signature to it. One of the things that happened was a mini ice age that happened. And we can see that by the Great Lakes and by the deserts that's happened in parts of Wyoming, Illinois, Arkansas, places along the Mississippi that show the signs of all these great rifts and turmoil that happened between the continents. But the last 500,000 years is what we become now. Before that, even at the 500,000 year mark, there was just you and your God. There was just a small band of people trying to keep order, trying to keep the chaos out of their life. And what they did was they turned to the skies. We fear the lots of things in the sky because lots of things that destroy us first were shown by the skies. Just like a tsunami, you got an earthquake out there. And if you look up from the bottom of the earthquake in the oceans where it happened, you can look up and you can see the turmoil happening in the water above you. Same thing here. When there's something here happening, you can look up and you can see the skies and see the turmoil that's happening. So it was back then. And people looked up and they saw the turmoil that was happening. They didn't know what it was, but they knew it was powerful enough to kill everybody. That was the whole outcome from it. But the thing is, in new worship, I want you to go back to that point. It is so easy to get lost in all of what man says. We don't listen to that is abundantly above all that we can ever ask or think. Guide us through all this deception of the great deceiver. All these people that's getting ready to bug out, looking for the end of times, the end of days, and stuff like that. They're so busy with their own little theories about what's going on till it's going to hit them slap in the face. And they're not going to have time enough to do anything because it's already getting to be too late. Because if they have not hunkered down and made abundantly clear and start doing what they need to do, then it's too late. Because come next spring, we may not be here the way that we are. There may be a national army coming across America trying to put down every type of little community or little bitty places that resist getting the COVID shots. That's going to happen. Well, they don't tell you that every pandemic has a lifeline. I think I talked about it. There's a number for everything. Well, for a pandemic, you either come up with a cure or the person adjusts to it or the virus changes and just goes away to where it doesn't affect us. And this happens in a very minute time within the Earth's time. And you can really see this happening about every 5 years. COVID-19 happened in 2019 to 2020, changing started out. So that means by 2025, you will see most people that were going to get sick from it will die out no matter what. It will go away, just like the Spanish flu, pig flu, polio, and all these other things that came up. They will go that way. And if you think that United States mandating that we get the COVID shot, that this is something unusual, no. During the 50s and 60s, every child had to have the inoculations on the shoulder for all these childhood diseases. I still got the mark on me showing where that happened to me. It was mandated that every child did get this before they could enter into school. And they had to show records of it to the schools before they could get in. Some schools would take your mother saying, yes, I did. Well, some schools you had to show it medically that it's happened. You didn't know that, but it was mandated then. It was mandated that everybody gets the flu shot back when Spanish flu come out. And they came out with a flu vaccine for it. And now it's not mandated, but they encourage everybody to get the flu shot. And that brings me to another point. The flu shot and COVID-19 virus, you can't have both. You can have one or the other. Do not take the flu shot and then turn around and get the COVID. You will get sick severely. You will die. Have a higher chance of dying. Don't get the flu shot, then get the COVID-19. If you get the COVID-19, don't turn around and get the flu shot when it comes out this year. Don't do it. Even though they'll say it's safe. Too many bad reactions between men, animals, and every one of them alike that's done this has winded up in very, very bad shape. Well, let's get back to new worship. You are going to be the only one soon that can say what God is saying to your heart. Don't tell them like it's an absolute, because God talks to each one of us individually. But know that your children and your children's children will have to go by this. This is the new worship. This is the new way. Even in the Quran and in the Bible and all the other prophets say that what is new is from that of the old. What was old, what happened back then, will happen again. And that's what I'm doing. I'm taking you back to the way it's supposed to be. All you preppers, all you end time people, leave now. All you people that's going to get the COVID shot, get it. Don't get the flu shot. And if you get the flu shot, don't get the COVID. You can't have both. And let's get real about this. The president's in trouble. One day he cannot overcome. And it is going to lead to worldwide turmoil, not just here, but around the world. This is David, God's servant, coming to you on New Worship. Y'all have a great day and great week. Bye bye.